What's going on, Army? This is your boy Martin, aka Level here, back today with another video. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with a Bora video. In this video, she talks about the BTS military strategy and the ones who discredit it. Now, Bora does go live every single week. I will leave a link to her channel in the description down below, so make sure to go follow her channel and leave a like on this video. Here on the Level Up channel, we are big supporters of Bora and her sister and their channel and everything that she does. Keeping Army informed, definitely keeping me informed. Recently, I haven't been the best at tuning into her live streams. I've been catching them when I can, but I want you to know, Bora, that I still do appreciate everything that you have done and continue to do for BTS and Army. Definitely, like I said, with keeping us informed, especially me. I greatly appreciate it. And I'll do better at tuning into the live streams. Don't worry. But when it comes to Bora's video essays, they are definitely top tier, and can't wait to see what she has to say in this video. So let's not waste no more time. Do me a big favor, everybody. Go ahead and hit that like button, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, as all these things help with the channel moving forward. And without any further ado, cue the intro.
I'm gonna say, we are idol. Let's go! Let's go!
어서 와. 방탄은 처음이지?
In South Korea, all able-bodied male citizens have to enlist in the military for 18 months before turning 28 years old. This, of course, includes K-pop singers. The 7 members of BTS at the peak of their careers enlisted in the military, serving from December of 2022 to June of 2025.
You really do have to go back to Elvis Presley to think of a pop music act of this magnitude entering the military at the absolute peak of their popularity.
First, J-Hope and RM, the third and fourth oldest members, released solo albums. Soon after, Jin, the oldest member, enlisted. Meanwhile, J-Hope, Suga, and Jimin released...
Wait, I'm still thinking about that. That's a crazy statement. And that's the creativeness of Bora. Like, I wouldn't even have thought to put that clip in. Now that I think about it, yeah, he's right. Like, Elvis Presley, when he went into the military, even though I obviously wasn't, around during that time, I've seen all the documentaries, I've seen the movies and stuff, and you go back and you do your research. Him going into the military did leave quite the impact. It did, especially because he was at such a high point in his career. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy that's how long it's been since something of this magnitude where someone of like an artist, or in their case, the boys have to enlist into the military. That's crazy to think about. Elvis Presley. Damn, Bora, you really did your research on that. I would have never thought of that.
Solo projects. Later, the second and third oldest members enlisted. Meanwhile, the younger members released solo projects. Then the younger members enlisted all together. For 6 months, all of the BTS members were in the military, but they released pre-recorded albums and music videos, so it was like they never left. After these 6 months, Jin, the oldest member, was discharged, and he released a solo project. Then J-Hope was discharged, and both members released more solo projects. Soon after, the younger members were all discharged from active duty, and Suga finished his social service, which lasts 21 months instead of 18 because of a shoulder injury. And in no time, the 7 BTS members reunited and started working on their group comeback in June of 2025. Despite not being 7, during these 2.5 years, BTS had new music out at all times. They were unable to release music as a group, but they were solo artists under the same BTS label, and they even promoted themselves as members of BTS. All of this while their bandmates served in the military. This strategy is surprisingly rare in K-pop. The members of male K-pop groups don't tend to enlist together. Instead, they each wait for the moment they turn 28 to enlist, leaving their groups incomplete for many years. This is basically the main reason why so many people applaud BTS.
Yeah, I want to pause, Bora, there for just a moment. That's a major chess move. But at the same time, having some material, having some content, having some music that's ready to go for when they leave as if they've never left. Which, by the way, obviously I became an Army while the boys were in the military, right? They kind of had just entered, and I was not able to see them, obviously enlist and or take off, but I was here during the middle parts of it and was able to see their return. I imagine for most of y'all, even though they were releasing content and or music still, I want to speak from a general knowledge of what I feel like it would be like to be y'all who were here before, during, and after their military service. Even though they were releasing content and stuff like that, I imagine it still felt like they weren't here, right? They did their best to try to keep releasing stuff so that we wouldn't miss them too much, right? Right when you think that, oh, I missed them, JK drops his album, Jimin drops his album, V drops a couple of songs, Are You Sure comes out, RM drops his album. I mean, they continue to release amazing music and or content for us to try to keep us entertained and to keep us busy while they're gone. That's a major chess move. That's thinking 4, 5, 6 moves ahead. I mean, Hybe, even though I don't know much about the K-pop industry other than BTS, and I'm still learning, and everything they do is so calculated, like they're playing chess. It is easy to see that they don't do things the norm. They definitely go out of their way. Whereas she just said the other groups may send everybody at like 28 or send them all at the same time or whatever the case. They don't send them separately. Hybe and the boys knew exactly what they were doing. It was calculated. It was well calculated. It was planned. It was thought out. This was brilliant. The way that they actually prepared for this was brilliant. Very well executed. Like I was trying to say earlier was, even though they were doing all these things, I'm sure for the most of y'all, it still didn't feel quite the same because they're not here. They thought of us so much to plan out releases while they were gone. But if they were here with us, and it would be better if they were here with us during those releases. And obviously they couldn't be, right? They're going off to serve their country. And rightfully so, they didn't complain about it. They did what they had to do as citizens of South Korea. You never heard them complain once, right? But I imagine being some of you armies who were here, like I said, before they even enlisted, you know, because I obviously came in a bit late, even though they were releasing so much stuff for us, they thought of us that much to prepare all that to be released while they were gone. As much as we love and appreciate it, it's not the same because they're not here. Ultimately, that's what we wanted. But they couldn't be, and we understood that. And we're grateful for everything that they do, and they continue to do. But I imagine that, because my experience is so different, that's how you guys kind of felt. You loved and appreciated it, but ultimately what you really wanted was them to be here with us. I imagine. But yeah, very well calculated. I mean, what they did was, nobody else is making moves like that. That's crazy. They are literally thinking 4, 3, 5, 6, 7 moves ahead.
They did not just enlist together, but they also scheduled solo releases right after the other. And they even prepared a lot of music for the 6 months while they were all serving. This strategy maintained the fandom entertained, and it even made the members more popular than they already were while promoting as BTS. That should be the end of it, but it's not. After BTS reunited in June of 2025, many started complimenting them on their effective strategy, their strong bond, and the sacrifices they made to stay as a group. But some K-pop fans believe they should not get this recognition because they were not the first group to enlist together. Therefore, they didn't do anything extraordinary. This really caught my attention because as someone who has been following BTS for a long time, I was surprised to learn that there were actually other K-pop groups that enlisted in the way BTS did. I thought, who are they? Because they are definitely not the biggest groups in K-pop. To the contrary, BTS's strategy was so unbelievable that even hopeful BTS fans were trying to calculate other scenarios in which BTS could go to the military. If they enlisted one by one, they would be reunited in 7 years, meaning 2029. This was the biggest fear. So like many other successful K-pop groups, some fans hoped that 3 or 4 members could keep the group alive with subunits. Others were hopeful to see BTS release music with 1, 2, or 3 members missing at times.
Can you imagine their return in 2029? See, they literally thought this out. They thought of probably every scenario possible, waiting till 2029 to see the reunion, the full 7 take place. I'm not a solo stan of one particular person. I love the group. I'm a solo stan of BTS. Oh, I love all our boys individually, and I'd support every one of them individually and their solo careers. But together, I stand BTS, like OT7 all the way. I can't even imagine the reunion that we got this year. Having to wait till 2029 for that? Starting in 22, that is buck wild. That is
Others hope for the members closing age to enlist together, so they have a 5-year hiatus instead of a 7-year hiatus. My point is that before 2022, no one was thinking about BTS's actual strategy being a possibility. It was that rare. So why are so many people claiming that BTS's strategy was not extraordinary? To get my answer, I looked into the groups that did it first. And after doing so, I realized that BTS's strategy was even more unbelievable than I thought it was.
all right. Here we go.
Whenever BTS fans mention that BTS's strategy was extraordinary and very effective, some K-pop fans go on and on about how this was not an unbelievable plan. So I looked into the other groups people claim did it first, and it turns out that they are correct. Other groups enlisted in similar ways to BTS before BTS. However, I realized that for BTS, this was a difficult decision and a very complex strategy to plan. Meanwhile, the few groups that enlisted in a similar way didn't have to plan or decide much. Let's look at some examples.
No disrespect, I've never heard of them.
K-pop boy group under WM Entertainment.
No
a
disrespect.
relatively medium label. They were a 7-member group, but one of them left. So they are 6 now. From these 6 members, 1 is Japanese, so he doesn't need to enlist. That leaves 5 members. In November of 2021, the group's leader announced that the 5 Korean members will enlist together. A month later, 1 member enlisted on December 21st, 2 other members enlisted on the 27th, and the 2 last members enlisted on the 28th. The enlisted members even performed together in a military event. This plan was great. Their hiatus was very short, and they reunited after 2 years. So this strategy was very smart. But also, it was pretty much their only choice. The Korean members are so close in age that even if they enlisted when they each turned 28, their hiatus would have been the same as BTS's, very short. The one who made the biggest sacrifice was the youngest member who enlisted 2 years before his deadline. But the other members were pretty much in the typical enlistment age range for K-pop stars. Either the youngest member enlists early with the others, or he would be the only one left out. So the members definitely had to talk about it and choose to prioritize the group. But this outcome was not unbelievable. All the Korean members were born within the same year and a half. Meanwhile, the BTS members have an age difference of 5 years.
Okay.
A similar example to on and off that K-pop stans mention a lot is Shinhwa. By 2007, each of the 6 members of Shinhwa created their own labels to promote a solo artist, which they did until they started enlisting one by one. The difference with BTS is that during this military period, there was no music, group, or solo. However, I have to highlight that this was probably the best decision for them because they are very close in age. BTS, like many other K-pop groups with many members, are not. That's why this strategy was surprising to see in BTS, but not in this group. It was actually expected. Like on and off, there was no big sacrifice. They simply followed the law.
Interesting.
Highlight, formerly known as Beast, are also very close in age, so they enlisted when it was time for them to enlist. While serving, 1 member left the group, so after a 2.5-year hiatus, they had a comeback as a 4-member group. Once again, this strategy was not a decision, it was just the law. Another similar example to the previous groups is 2PM. The 5 Korean members of the 6-member group enlisted when it was time for each of them to enlist. Because of their proximity in age, they finished their military service in a span of 3 years. Despite their short hiatus, they didn't prioritize the group. Instead, they had 1 comeback and then they focused on their solo careers.
You know, and I want to point something out as well. That I don't know if she necessarily gets into. She keeps using the term short hiatus. You know, they're gone for 18 months at a time and or possibly longer. But as the group itself, for like the last group, for instance, a short hiatus of 3 years. It definitely could be longer. But let's be honest here. 3 years is not a short time, especially if you happen to be a group that's like in the prime of your like group's career so far. Like imagine, like I can't even imagine like, and I hope to God this doesn't happen, if the YouTube channel for me was to blow up and overnight we went from, I think I have like 11,000 subscribers. Again, shout out to the Level Up family. Love you all very much. Thank you all for the support. Imagine if I went from 11,000 subscribers today. By next week, I had about 100,000 subscribers. Obviously, during that time, throughout the entire like year and a half or almost 2 years of my YouTube career, that would be considered as the prime. I am at the peak of my career. And then imagine my internet goes out for 4 to 5 weeks and there's no way that I can even upload videos, edit anything. Like that takes a hit on the group itself. So I'm not saying that, you know, Bor is not saying this or anything. I just want to point that out, that even though these are short hiatuses and or them having to go away for a short period, depending on where they're at in their careers, it's not short, because that's a long time. I mean, 3 years is still a long time. I didn't use the extent of 3 years. I only used 5 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks. Imagine I could have uploaded for 4 to 5 weeks after I just hit the peak of my career as a YouTuber. That would be damaging. That would hurt the channel. To have to, and I get it, it's the law. They have to go. They have to do this. Excuse me. They absolutely have to do this. So they don't have any ifs, ands, buts about it. They have to go. Depending on where they're at in their careers, this could be damaging, right? This could really hurt and be some setbacks and take a couple of steps back in their careers. And I'm not defending them by any means. I'm just saying, I'm just acknowledging that, you know, I'm thinking to myself like, man, 3 years is still a long time. It could be worse. It could be 7 years, 5 to 7 years. Luckily for them, in their case, the best case scenario is 2 to 3 years, honestly, but that's still quite a long time. The only thing I definitely want to point out, and she kind of mentioned it briefly just a second ago with a different group, is how many of them were releasing content and or music and or solo works while they were in the military. That's what I'm saying. That's the, if they are, how did it perform? Because that, if they did happen to do that, if any of these groups happen to do that, then you have to stack up like, how did it perform as opposed to the music you were releasing before you went into the military, and how well did it perform as compared to someone like BTS or some people that are haters out there, the ones that are sitting here saying like, oh, what BTS didn't do was what they did wasn't unbelievable because other groups have done it before. They're going to be the same ones who say, well, like, oh, well, it's BTS. You can't compare them to BTS. Well, hold on a second. You did that earlier. When you started saying that, oh, what they did wasn't unbelievable because other groups have already done it. You've already compared that. You've already made that comparison. So if any of these people, which it doesn't sound like any of them did, and if they did, my apologies and being incorrect. If any of these groups happen to have released music and or solo work, how did it compare to when BTS did it? And if they didn't do it, that's what makes BTS and how they decided to go off to the military and or release music while they were gone. That's what makes it so unbelievable, is the fact that none of y'all were thinking that far ahead. Y'all just thought, oh, if we send you guys off real quick, you'll be back in no time. You can come back. We can make some music, work this thing out, and be bigger than ever before. It was almost like they never left. That's how much content they were releasing. They kept me very much entertained while they were gone because I was already having to catch up on stuff that I had no idea about, learning about the boys, and they're releasing stuff while I'm having to do all that. So even for y'all who were up to date and weren't like me playing catch up, you were still having lots of stuff to be entertained with while they were gone. That's the beautiful chess moves that they were making as opposed to all the other groups. That's what makes it unbelievable. And I don't know if we're going to get into it. I just had to point that out. I don't know if any of them truly released any music while they were gone or not. Truthfully, to be honest with you, I don't care. But for the sake of Bor's argument stuff, I'm entertained and I'm well in tuned. But I just had to point that out. I'm sorry.
Another group people say enlisted together is SHINee. By December of 2018, SHINee had 4 members and 3 of them enlisted together because they were very close in age. The oldest member was actually about to turn 29 when he enlisted, but he still made sure to enlist by 28. The other 2 members enlisted just in time, only some months before their 28th birthday. In other words, they enlisted together because it was time for them to enlist. Meanwhile, the youngest member released solo music and became a member of another group. So after the older members were discharged,
Damn,
they reunited
he
quickly,
left?
and soon after, the youngest member
Joined someone
enlisted.
else?
This left the group incomplete for almost 5 years.
Wow.
Although this turned out great for them, I think we cannot include this group in this list. This strategy was not intentionally followed for the longevity of the group. Each member enlisted when they had to enlist, and the group was incomplete for many years.
Damn, left to join forces with somebody
Another group
else.
some people like to mention
Not my
enlisted
boys.
together is TVXQ. And while that is true, there is only 2 members in this group. One member enlisted in July of 2015 and the other enlisted in November of 2015. Some months after their discharge, they released their comeback album. So as a group part of a Big 3 label, they did benefit from enlisting together, but the plan was not as complex as BTS's.
2-man group. That's interesting.
Sky, formerly known as Intuit, is a K-pop male group formed under MMO Entertainment, a small/medium label now known as Wake One. They debuted as an 8-member group in 2017. A member left in 2018, another member left in 2019, and in 2020, the remaining 6 members announced they would continue the group independently. But because of the COVID pandemic, the Korean members decided to instead enlist together in November and December of 2020. This was the most surprising example I could find, because like BTS, the members are not that close in age. The youngest member was enlisting almost 3 years before his deadline. So why
Wow.
are we not hearing more about this? When people talk about how amazing BTS strategy is, the conversation is mostly about how beneficial this is for the longevity of the group. This strategy allows the public to 1. Not forget about them because there's constant new music, and 2. Make the group reunion happen as soon as possible.
Yeah.
However, Sky became an independent group and then enlisted altogether. They were discharged in 2022, and since then, they haven't released any music as a group. They only held a couple of fan meetings without their Malaysian member. By the time I'm making this video, it's been 3 years since they were discharged. Just so you
Wow.
have an idea, after this group was discharged, BTS enlisted, released solo music, were discharged, reunited, and worked on their comeback album. During this time, this group only released vlogs and short videos. What I'm guessing is that because they don't have a label, they cannot enjoy the benefits of enlisting at the same time. Back in 2020, when they announced their enlistment, some fans were scared of this strategy because without a label and with how fast the K-pop industry goes, a complete absence may work against them. So they did go and return together, but the outcome did not happen. Their fans are still waiting for an actual comeback.
And that's crazy as well. Let me explain something. And I'm not by any means picking on the previous group that she just mentioned. Our boys could never go that long without working on some form of music. I undoubtedly, I could bet all my money that BTS, out of every K-pop group that is known to man, are the hardest working group to ever live. That's just K-pop. I could go into all branches of music because I fit that category too, but we're talking specifically just K-pop here. Because I would bet my money against them and anybody, any artist and or group in the world. But I'm going to stick to just K-pop. BTS could never go that long without not dropping something. That speaks volumes. I think they're workaholics. I think they work hard and they work a lot. I think they have a lot to say. I still think they feel like they have a lot to accomplish. And I love and respect that about them. They love music. They care about the craft. They care about the fans. They really do care. And I'm not saying that the other group doesn't. I'm just saying you're going to have to, lock these boys in a room and throw away the key if you don't want them to make music. And somehow they're still going to make music and make it work. They're still going to get music out. It doesn't matter. Whatever situation you put them in, they are still going to put out music. There's no way they go that long without ever making music. The day they decide to do that is the day they just officially retire. And let's hope that's not for 50, 60, 70 plus years. I don't know, but I can't even imagine, like, there's no world where BTS goes that long without making music. Not one. That's crazy. And here's another thing is BTS's influence and power and support. She just said a minute ago that, you know, some of the fans of the other group were afraid, like with the K-pop industry, how fast it moves. Pretty much you don't want to become irrelevant. Let me just say, if the boys were to ever go a long period without releasing music, they're at such a level of success and power and or support and or just making of good music, good, amazing quality music. There's no way they ever go irrelevant. They could probably go the 3 years, 4 or 5 years without releasing one song. They would never go irrelevant. They're BTS. They'll be legends and be the top dogs until the end, until they just decide, yeah, we're no longer going to be here. And even after, we're no longer going to make music. And even after that, they still will be the GOATs, right? And we see this all the time with different genres of music as well. We're going to talk about rap for a second. Tupac and Biggie have been dead since like 1995, and they are still considered the GOATs of hip hop. Michael Jackson has been gone since I think 2008, 2009, something like that. He is still considered the GOAT of pop, right? People still talk about Elvis. Their legends live forever. They do. GOATs live forever. The debates are still there. Muhammad Ali hasn't boxed, I don't know, a boxing match, and I don't know how long. He's still considered as the GOAT. Mayweather, all these other great fighters have come and gone, and still you talk about Muhammad Ali. That'll be BTS. BTS is the one and only, I feel like, K-pop group that undoubtedly will be talked about forever. They will never be forgotten. And during this period, if they decided throughout this whole time, which they didn't, obviously, but if they decided, we're just going to go do our military service, we're not going to release one song, we're not going to give them not any show of Are You Sure, we're just going to go off, do our thing, and then come back whenever we're done, they still would be relevant. They still would be charting. They still would be, I mean, I don't know. And that's crazy. That's how successful, that's how bigger than music that BTS really is. It's mind-blowing. It's truly mind-blowing. And I say it every time, and I'll continue to say it. I'm just lucky to be a part of it. I'm just lucky to be a part of it, folks.
The reason why I analyzed these groups' enlistments is because I wanted to understand the reason why this strategy was so shocking when BTS did it and not them. The simplest answer, of course, is that BTS is the biggest group. So when they do it, it becomes news. But I believe that answer erases BTS's efforts. Like I already explained, these groups enlisted together because they had no other choice. They are so close in age that whether they decided to prioritize the group or disband and go solo, they would have still enlisted almost all together. But this lucky situation is not common in K-pop. The 7 examples I gave may seem like a lot, but they are actually nothing. The other hundreds of K-pop groups disband before enlistment or enlist at different times. Actually, the examples I showed were so rare that it was hard for me to find them because a lot of the examples K-pop fans gave turned out to be false. I saw people mentioning EXO, but they were incomplete for 6 years because of their military service. Others mentioned Super Junior, but they were incomplete for 9 years. Mentioning them as examples of groups that follow this military strategy before BTS is just disingenuous or completely misunderstanding BTS's plan. After my research, I can say that the only group that intentionally went out of their way to follow a similar strategy to BTS before BTS was Sky, a group that similarly doesn't have the resources to have a comeback and enjoy the benefits of this enlistment strategy.
Hold on. I'm sorry, Bora'c. I gotta go back.
And not them. The simplest answer, of course, is that BTS is the biggest group. So when they do it, it becomes news. But I believe that answer erases BTS's efforts.
I'm confused. So, but I believe the answer erases BTS efforts. I don't know why I'm confused here. She is very intelligent and stuff. Y'all know how slow I am, that I'm trying to keep up. Because they're the simplest answer, of course, is that BTS is the biggest group. But I believe that answer erases BTS's efforts. I think it's BTS's efforts, their previous past efforts, that has made them the biggest group, which is why that's the answer. I mean, I don't know if that exactly makes sense or not, but to me, it's not the only answer. This is just the major answer because of their efforts. And because of their efforts, they continue to do things like release music and stuff while they're gone. So I don't know how I truly feel about that. And again, Boris, I don't think is going to take offense to this. She has her opinion, I have mine, and I don't know if she would agree with this. Obviously, she has a specific opinion. It's just, I think I know what she's saying, and I think it's just because I'm confused. Because Lord have mercy, I'm just trying to. I don't know why it shouldn't confuse me. She's saying it simply for me to understand. I'm just slow. I think it's because of their efforts why this is the answer, right? Everything that's led up to their military discharge. How do I want to say it? So every group that she mentioned, mainly she said Sky was the closest. Every group had a similar plan. However, only one group has managed to execute it well. I don't know. I guess what I want to say is like the execution part of it has to do with because of their previous efforts, because of how hard they work, because of the effort they put into their music, into their choreographies, into all that. They have become the biggest group to ever live. And because of that, their support is why they, as well as their music and the legendary, music and everything that they've created, is the reason why their legend will never go away. Their story will never disappear. It will never fade. That light will never burn out because of the efforts that they put in. And then that effort continues while they're in the military to keep that light and that flame alive. On top of that, because of their efforts and everything prior, the support from Army will never go away either, which also keeps that light lit. It'll never go dark. It could never fade. Right? We have been, as Army, through a lot of negativity in the last year. Everything with the whole Suga incident and everybody trying to come at him for that. We protected him. To even now, bro, all the V stuff and oh my God, I don't even want to get into it, but I've seen I might make a video, I don't know, about V, J-Hope, and RM at the breast cancer awareness and the party that took place after that and the hate that they're getting now. All I want to say in regards to that, I might lose some supports here. Keep the same energy when their tickets go on sale. If you've ever been at a negative point, I've seen lots of TikToks, and this is why I kind of want to go into it. I've saved, in case I decide to make a video, at least 10 videos of people ripping their posters off the wall and stuff like that, and throwing away the little tiny tins because of the recent breast cancer awareness event that just happened. All I'm going to say is keep the same energy when the tickets drop. Don't buy them. Right? You want that negative energy? You chose to go down that route. Stay on that path when the tickets drop. Stay on that path when their music drops. Don't come back running into this fandom. Those truly, in my opinion, aren't armies. And that's a whole different situation and a whole different thing I want to go into. I don't even know why I went into that. I just had to make that quick announcement because that kind of energy and that kind of negativity is what separates me from other BTS reactors and or supporters. The difference is between me and other armies out there who have YouTube channels and stuff. And I'm not talking about Bora'c specifically. I'm not even bringing her up. I'm talking about the difference with me is I don't give a damn. I'll say it and not care. I'm not afraid to hurt your feelings. I'm not afraid to, I will defend these boys because they've helped me through a time of my life and personal things that I've gone through and or thought about myself. They've helped me through some struggles that nobody else could. And because of that, I will continue to defend them. I'm sorry I'm going on this rant. This is a whole different video, but I had to speak up about this because it's just been irritating me a lot recently. But I want to get back into this really quickly. I don't think, in my personal opinion, no, I don't think it takes away from the efforts. It may not. I don't know how some of y'all feel towards that. But I don't think so. I think it's because of their efforts why they're the biggest group, why that's the answer. Their efforts is the reason why they've made it to this point, to where their level of success while in the military stayed afloat, why they didn't have a decrease, why they didn't, and it continued on from there. While they were in the military, the efforts still pushed on. So I don't know. I just had to go back on that. I'm making this video way longer than it needs to. I'm so sorry, Bora'c. I'm so sorry, everybody else. Sorry I got into that little tangent. We might get into a separate video on that. I don't know, bro. Like, I don't know. I don't know where we. I don't know. I've seen the videos. I've seen the comments, and you can only hold your tongue for so long.
Erases BTS strategy. When I come across these conversations, I personally feel a sentiment of rejection to BTS's efforts by K-pop fans. According to them, BTS fans are insufferable for giving them so much credit. Some even say that BTS fans have K-pop history ignorance. But what about the media's reaction and the strategy's impact in the K-pop industry? If so many groups did it first, why was it not revolutionary back then? Like I mentioned, it was not revolutionary because this plan was some groups' only choice, and the ones who actually chose this strategy didn't receive the same benefits. So how can you really say that others successfully did it first? Some people like mentioning that other groups didn't have the resources and dedicated fanbase to release solo music in a schedule similar to BTS's.
That's not my problem. If you don't have the resources, that sounds like a you problem, not a me problem. Again, remember, maybe BTS and all these groups had the same plan, but just because we all have the same similar plan doesn't mean that the outcome's going to be the same. It depends on how you execute it. That's it. That's what it comes down to, is the execution. At the end of the day, and BTS's, their effort, their hard work, that's why it worked. If you didn't work as hard for it, for the outcome to be the same, I'm sorry. Because once you start getting into, oh, well, BTS has resources that all these other groups didn't have, that's when you start making excuses. You just sound like a hater. Like, again, that's not my problem. Remember, there was a time when BTS didn't have, remember early in their career? They didn't always have the resources that they have now. Not even close to it. I even remember seeing a video where they were like recording out of some dude's garage. That's what they had. It didn't matter. I don't think the resources mattered to them back then. They worked with what they had. And it still looks like it was successful to me.
And that is completely true.
I hate that excuse.
But why is BTS's
excuse,
sacrifice being erased in this entire conversation? No other group had to go through what BTS went through to make this plan a reality.
Thank you.
Yet they still chose it. In 2021, BTS was at the peak of their careers. They established themselves as not just the biggest group in the world, but also as one of the biggest artists at the moment. But this was not supposed to happen. Jin, the oldest member of BTS, was turning 28 in December of 2020, meaning that he had to enlist in the military. His birthday was on a Friday. So on Tuesday of that same week, South Korea's parliament rushed to announce a revision of the country's Military Service Act. This lets K-pop stars postpone their military service until they turn 30, but only if they have received an Order of Cultural Merit, a medal awarded by the president. BTS has been the only K-pop group ever to receive this medal, making the public name this revision the BTS Law. since it was basically
Wow.
created just for them. They
Wow.
are literally the only ones who meet the criteria. So as BTS continued releasing music and having massive success
That's
all
the
throughout
impact we have.
2021, South Korea's lawmakers started debating about a possible military exemption for recording artists who have extraordinary impact globally. But something to note here is that the debate was really about BTS only. BTS broke massive barriers for K-pop artists to participate in the
Because no other group other than them has had that global impact. Like you maybe have an impact in Korea and maybe the surrounding countries, but globally?
music industry since 2017.
Only one group has
but
done that,
the
in my
most
opinion.
popular K-pop idols were enlisting in the military all these years, and no one was debating a K-pop exemption. Government officials only started considering a K-pop exemption because the 2 extra years they gave BTS were not enough. Jin was soon turning 30 and BTS's popularity didn't die down. Instead, it increased astronomically.
Wow.
So the meetings for a possible exemption
Wow.
for extraordinary artists like BTS started, and they were an absolute mess. BTS and their label decided to not get involved at all. Remember that the public was really divided about this topic, and many considered this preferential treatment. So the ones debating BTS's future and advocating in favor of military exemptions for K-pop artists were actually government officials and other K-pop labels. Busan's mayor, the Culture, Sports and Tourism Minister, the representative of the People Power Party, and other government officials wanted BTS to serve through an alternative program similar to athletes and classical musicians. But the criteria for this would have most likely been the same as for the 2-year postponement. And that was a big part of the debate. It was beneficial for K-pop labels to support BTS's exemption because their K-pop groups may also get an exemption. The problem was that BTS's achievements were too extraordinary, and no K-pop group could even meet the criteria for the 2-year postponement. 26 K-pop labels, including the big 3 agencies SM, JYP, and YG Entertainment, filed an objection to the Ministry of National Defense represented by the Korean Music Content Association. They said the amendment was unrealistic and unfair, saying it is near impossible for K-pop musicians to qualify before the age of 28. And that is true. BTS were actually too young to receive the Order of Cultural Merit in 2018, but the president gave them the medal as an exception because their achievements were truly extraordinary, never seen before in history. The K-pop labels said they were not blindly asking to lower the standards, but instead for the ministry to come up with standards that are not this extraordinary. In other words, K-pop labels were not asking to lower the standard, they were just asking to lower the standard. So picture this, K-pop labels advocated for military exemptions for BTS and other non-extraordinary musicians. Some lawmakers were advocating for only BTS to receive exemptions because their cities and government projects benefit from BTS only. Other lawmakers were against BTS and any K-pop artist receiving military exemptions. The public was divided, BTS was quiet, and BTS's label only asked.
You know what's crazy is while everybody is speaking, making a huge because this is probably a big deal. Let me say this: can you imagine as to why another company, especially a company that like that isn't hype, that doesn't have BTS? Can you imagine why that company would maybe want the boys to really have to go to the military? It's so that it provides an opportunity for their group to shine, to take that spotlight while they're gone. And I'm not saying that they could. I'm just saying this is the way they would think. For any company that was like, this isn't fair, they have to go, they shouldn't be exempt, they have to go to the military. Can you see the picture as to why? You're not fooling anybody. You don't care about the law. You don't care. This is for all monetary gain. This is for you and your company to benefit from it. And BTS having to go to the military is a benefit for everybody else. Because I will tell you, even though I didn't know quite pretty much about anything about BTS before I actually knew them, I knew of them. I had never heard of any other K-pop group in my life other than BTS. I'm not trying to pick on anybody. I'm just saying all the other big groups that are now big groups, I've not even heard of them. Not even close. And I probably wouldn't, but everybody knows BTS. I even have a grandma who doesn't know K-pop, who knows who BTS is. Can you see why they maybe would want this to not be excused? BTS having to go to the military? Of course. It's a benefit for them and their company and their group. More money comes in for them. The spotlight is on their group. That means more money. They get to rise in the charts. BTS goes down because they're not here. The only thing they probably didn't expect is for BTS to put out stuff while they're gone. They weren't expecting that. They had nothing. Let me say this. I feel like it had nothing to do with the law. This was all selfish. This had nothing to do for the companies that were like, oh, it's the law. You know, this is our way of life. This isn't how they shouldn't be exempt just because it's BTS. It had nothing to do with the culture, had nothing to do with the law. It had everything to do with just selfishly thinking about themselves and their company. I can't hate on them for it, but you're not going to sit here and act like this is the reason why you're doing it. No, you want your group to succeed, to rise while BTS is gone, because it benefits everybody if they're gone, everybody else, every other company. Even though the world and their economy and everything benefits if BTS is here, the other companies are like, well, it benefits us if they're not here. So we're not going to, you know, I don't know. But notice, what I really wanted to say was notice how BTS throughout this entire time, they haven't said a word. They haven't complained. They haven't cried and moaned about having to go or wanting to be excused, or, you know, why, you know, they haven't put up a fuss. They have not said a word. Everybody else is rambling. They haven't said a thing.
Lawmakers to reach a decision. But look at all of these mess. Even the ones agreeing to give BTS an exemption debated about the alternative service. Would it be a full exemption or a partial exemption? Should they perform and serve in the military at the same time, or should they serve in the military for a shorter period of time? There were many meetings, but instead of coming up with decisions, they announced delay after delay. So in the end, all the BTS members decided to terminate their 2-year postponement and enlist in the military. After this decision, the government stopped debating about a possible military exemption for K-pop artists, because it was about BTS this entire time. What I'm trying to say is that while all of these K-pop labels begged for a 2-year postponement for the members of their groups, BTS, the only ones with an actual chance to receive exemptions, quit all of that. They said, thank you for the 2-year extension, but we're enlisting together either way. The younger members could have actually waited for the older members to enlist, have a full group comeback and a tour, and then go to the military when it was their time to go, prioritizing their personal lives and even solo careers. But they didn't. They enlisted together and up to 4 years earlier because they thought about the longevity of the group. It was not just luck or the privilege of pre-recording and releasing multiple solo projects during these 3 years. They chose their own future together when their own government and the K-pop industry were trying to play with it. That sacrifice is the essence of the BTS strategy.
You absolutely killed it, girl. Doing your thing as always. I was confused at moments there. I'm probably said some things that probably didn't make no sense, because I hope it all makes sense. I try to understand. I try to keep up with her. Like I said, she says she makes it simplistic for you. It's just, I don't know. She still speaks intelligently and her knowledge is high that my brain. I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry I went on the little tangent there. I've been seeing all the rumors. I've been seeing all the talks. I've been seeing all the negative energy, and I'm not one for it. Right? I'm not one for it. I'm not. And unfortunately, I am the one with the platform who is willing to speak up for them, and don't care if it gives me a copyright strike. I don't care if just being honest with you guys, if I lose supporters over it, I'm going to defend BTS no matter what until the very end. Until the end, because of the effect that they've had on my life. It's the least I could do for them. It's the least I could do for them. So, and as long as I have a platform, as long as I have a YouTube channel, and as long as my voice continues to work and be able to, expel words from my mouth and into this microphone and out to you guys, I'm going to defend them. Hope you guys enjoyed. OT7 all the way to the dad die. That's going to go to right there. Do me a big favor. Go ahead and hit that like button. Comment down below. Subscribe to the channel, as all these things help with the channel moving forward. Thanks, Bora, for the amazing content. Love the video. Go leave a like, comment, and subscribe onto her channel as well. And until next time, peace.